So today during Hurricane Preparedness Week, we're talking about the topic of help your neighbor. And to discuss this, we're joined here with Hollie Reina from Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. Hollie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, John. I'm excited to be here. This is something that HIEMA is really pushing with our hurricane preparedness campaign is help your neighbor. And it's a little bit more intrinsic than the rest of the preparedness things. Like it's not get your kit packed and know your route out, except for that it is in the way that you need to know what your neighbors need. And that can be, it's like, do you have kapuna in your neighborhood that might need help evacuating or getting groceries? If people are going to run at the store, they're not going to be able to get their grocery carts in there and fight for the things that they need. 1 in 9 people in Hawaii is limited English proficient, meaning they don't speak English as their first language. It's not spoken in the home very regularly. So getting them preparedness information in different languages. And do you know that? Are they going to automatically know that they need to evacuate if it's only coming through in English? And one of the ones that I think about a lot is if somebody's living alone, what are the mental and emotional things that they might need? Do they just need somebody to comfort them and be like, it's going to be okay, we're all going to get through this together? And then we have our access and functional needs populations, which can be anybody from a pregnant woman who has difficulty walking or somebody in a wheelchair or blind and deaf people. And are they surrounding you? Touch base with them and find out what their needs are. One good thing about hurricane preparedness is that we have time. So you can go reach out and say, what do you need now that we're taking care of? How can we help you? And what are going to be the best ways to get the things that you need to become a more resilient community together? Just find out who they are, become their friends. It's pretty simple, actually.
The culture here is geared towards that in the first place, knowing the people in your neighborhood, in your community. And you touch on a bunch of great topics that I know we struggle with the communication aspect, multilingual support. All of our warnings are in English. Mm-hmm. And that's a big one, to know what's coming, to know what to expect.
Exactly. We've been really working hard to get a lot of our critical documents translated, but that emergency, just like on-the-go information, we discovered that I think was the big disparity came when COVID hit, because not everybody was getting the emergency information that they needed. Not everybody understood that beaches were closed or you couldn't gather the way that we used to. And then we're like, they don't understand. And so it's really helpful to get that information out. And if you know that that's one of your neighbors, then you can reach out to like HIEMA or the National Weather Service and say, hey, they probably don't know. How do we tell them that it's time to evacuate? How do we tell them the difference between a watch and a warning? And those kinds of things is very important to us.
As we get into hurricane season, it's a great time to make sure you know your neighbors, know their vulnerabilities. But that's not the only time to check in, really. After an event is another good time to touch base.
Absolutely. I mean, with things like hurricanes that bring strong winds and flooding, if you live in Malca and you have, possible landslides, people are going to need help clearing debris, reopening passageways back to your home, checking on the structure of your house if it's safe to return. General cleanup. And that's where I feel like the Hawaii community really does a great job. Is like we come together and we help each other clean up and we really have that great spirit. And I feel like, with the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency, we're always saying if we're all more resilient together, then that's less reliance on we can get to the very most vulnerable faster if we're not, if your neighbors are helping each other.
Great information. Another thing to look at to get ready to help your community become prepared is the Hawaii Hazards Awareness and Resiliency Program and the Community Emergency Response Teams. Several communities have these groups, neighbors helping neighbors and preparing for disasters. And if your neighborhood doesn't have one, this might be a great time to start one. Hollie, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, John.